Hey guys, what's up? Hope you're doing great. I'm Diego, and this time I'm gonna do a full season 2 spoiler discussion. The reason why I'm doing this is because I really wanted to rewatch this season the whole way through over again and wrap my head around the finale, because it all felt like it was beautiful and all, but it really felt like a lot of information. It was so overwhelming, and I loved it, the finale, but I really had to give some thought to some things that happened throughout the episode and also happened throughout the whole season. This was definitely an experience, and I can see why it's definitely a controversial season. Even if it had flaws this season, I unapologetically love this season. I enjoyed it the whole way through, and I do think this is a vastly underrated season in the Avatar universe. Character development, world building, the thematic significance of it all in the context of the Avatar universe and for some characters, it all really makes for some really unique storytelling and certain scenes and certain episodes that I'm just gonna remember it forever, to be honest. First of all, what are my thoughts about the season 2 finale? I thought it was beautifully executed, like the visuals and the whole grandiosity of the spectacle. It was very well done. I can see why people may see this episode as kind of silly, because it definitely seemed something you don't normally expect out of the Avatar universe. This kind of battle, this kind of King Kong versus Godzilla situation. But I did really enjoy it because I am attached to Korra as a protagonist, and I know what Unalaq's intentions are. So I did care for the battle because it really felt like it suited the themes, because this is a clash of spiritual energy, the light versus dark, and I think this was what's all building up to, basically. I know a lot of people may see it like some kind of silly battle, because it's basically these giant things battling in a city, water, yeah. But it was really emotionally powerful for me because this meant a step forward for Korra as a character. One of the main things that Korra has been struggling with is finding her spiritual self. Korra found out that the Avatar is not really what makes her being Korra. What makes her Korra is herself, Korra herself. I love that question of the identity. There are a bunch of identity issues throughout this whole season. One of my favorite things about this season is seeing that journey in Korra and Tenzin and how much of a parallel there is. And the reason why the finale has that much of a great payoff is that it finally feels like Korra is really embracing herself, and that's a struggle she goes through this whole season, and even it's kind of like a build-up for the first season. There's this whole pressure on her, like that she builds up herself as well, that she has to live up to the legacy of the Avatar, the best version of herself. There's the blurry line of what does the Avatar mean? This bond with this spiritual energy like Rava, or does it have to do more like with yourself? That's just such a great tie-in with the beginnings episodes. Also with Tenzin's realization of living up to the legacy of Aang is not his mission. His mission is embracing himself, being Tenzin. That's what made Aang so pure in Avatar The Last Airbender, being himself, unapologetically himself, and that's what Tenzin has to embrace. Tenzin teaching Korra to be herself makes so much sense, and that's what really makes the finale so powerful for me. And also like the whole spectacle of Mako, Bolin, and Tenzin just fighting the spirits. It's all visually wonderful. It's amazing. I think the one thing that kind of held back this episode from being the best that it can be is the whole Jinora situation. I know there's a lot of theories about how Jinora brings Bravo back. I've heard about the butterfly spirit, having that butterfly spirit coming from episode 13 and being able to eliminate Rava within Batu. Also about bringing the teapot. And also there's another theory in which she has this light bomb, and I think I'm leaning more towards this theory. Thanks to that light bomb, she's able to eliminate Rava within Batu. Not necessarily a butterfly spirit, I'm leaning more towards that theory merely because Rava said in episode 8 that darkness, no matter what, even though she might win that battle against darkness, against Vatu, darkness was always going to grow within her. And that's the whole beautiful aspect about this season. Really, one cannot live without the other. They have to coexist. Light was always going to grow within Vatu. And I also had this question answered about how Korra was able to be giant Korra. Basically because harmonic convergence happens and it amplifies the energy, the energy powers and spirituality and everything. So yeah, it really makes a lot of sense to see that. So why is this season so underrated for me? We do see that this season has a completely different structure from previous seasons, and it's very ambitious in what it's trying to say. Many of the themes that were developed throughout this whole season can be encapsulated by the following theme. Light and dark are always going to be there. They have to coexist. But your energy, the focus of your energy, whether it is light or dark, is what can make the difference. And Korra, by the end of this season, makes a choice of leaving the portal open. And Korra, by doing that, is basically projecting a good, a light, a kind energy. And it's saying, I believe in the kindness and the goodness of humanity. That humanity can be better, and if they embrace who they really are, then you can find a better way to make things right. Do not depend on the past. And I think that is the point. That is the point of sadly killing off the past lives in episode 13, which I think is my favorite episode of this whole season. And so far, without seeing seasons 3 and 4, my favorite episode of the entirety of Legend of Korra. Without seeing seasons 3 and 4. And that's the thing. Killing off the past lives, it is, I think, a benefit for Korra mainly as a character. It pushes Korra to embrace herself, to be the start of a new era. Stop being so obsessed with living up to the legacy, to living up to the past. And that is exactly, basically the same character arc that Tenzin goes through. You don't have to live up to Aang. You don't have to live up to your father, to what came before. What matters is you have to forge your own path, and you have to believe that it's the good way, it's the right way to do things. Because naturally, change is always going to happen. I'm really excited to see season 3 because the book is titled Change. Basically, this whole season, I think embracing your spiritual energy to accept change. And before getting into the best things that I loved about this season, I have to point out the flaws. Even though I love this season, one of the main flaws that I found about this season is that the first 6 episodes are really like a slow pace. Like the season, it takes a while to pick up, And the first 6 episodes, it does have this kind of direction going from one way to the other. It doesn't have that clear sense of direction that, for example, season 1 had from Legend of Korra. It went from spirits to civil wars to Republic City. It was sort of messy by the beginning. Then it really picks up. It really picks up by episode 7 and 8 and then on. The first 6 episodes were kind of slow, even though I enjoyed some more than others. Other flaw for me, I think it's Bolin as a character. I think Bolin majorly portrayed as just this silly comic relief that at times it worked, at times it really didn't. This whole situation with Eska, it was kind of weird, and this whole thing with Ginger was out of place. I think it was out of place. I didn't really like that. But then his character was redeemed by episode 11, way later on in the season. But it took a while for me to care for Bolin in this season because that lovable personality from season 1 was not there exactly. It was just comic relief. I wish there was something else for Bolin other than being an actor for Varric. Even though Varric was great. Excellent. This is the kind of Jack Sparrow character that I love. Love it. I cannot wait to see more from him. So eccentric, so unpredictable. One of my favorite type of characters, honestly. I love him. so unpredictable. Other flaw for me, I think it's Asami. The lack of involvement of Asami was mind-blowing to me. It really did seem like the writers didn't know what to do with Asami. Be there again as a love interest and really not do much anything. When the team Avatar came together, Asami was not there. Had these moments as, you know, being in the plane and stuff in Harmonic Convergence, and then she was out of the picture, and it was weird. It was weird, even though I know she doesn't have fire bending or water bending or earth bending, but she can fight, so she can help. So I don't know. It really did seem like they didn't know what to do with Asami. And the other thing for me, it's not necessarily like a flaw, but it's kind of a weak spot. Even though it does have very good positives, I think Unalaq as a villain, by the very end, I think it kind of felt like a Firelord Ozai for me. And here's a little bit of context. I like Firelord Ozai, and I like Unalaq. But the thing is that this kind of villain that just really wants to conquer the world and be like this, you know, the greatest power in the universe, it's not that interesting to me. For example, I think Amon from season 1 was so much more intriguing, and it felt like there was such a personal conflict to him. It just really made me care for him by the end. Unalaq, it was just like, this is just a piece of garbage, you know, a terrible father, a terrible human being, a terrible brother, a terrible uncle. He was just there being evil by the end. What I do like about him though is that he poses questions that Korra gives some thought about it. The fact that Korra left the portal open, that's something that Unalaq wanted to do. I appreciate that Unalaq did have like some wisdom here and there, and some like very interesting things to say about the world, about the spirits, about how humanity works. I did really like that. But the thing about him just being this evil villain, just like be for the sake of being evil kind of, it was kind of weird for me because it didn't really match with the way he speaks and the way he views the world in the first few episodes of the season. So it's kind of weird for me. But overall, I did enjoy Unalaq as a villain. And this season overall, it just had some great build-up, and it really paid off by the end. I really enjoyed that. This season really felt like a trilogy for me. It really did feel like the first 6 episodes was its own story. Then Beginnings Part 1 and Part 2 was its own story. And then the third of this trilogy kind of was episodes 9 through 14. And it really felt like this whole big epic journey that in retrospective, it just really resonated with me emotionally, like deeply, you know? The thing is that there were so many good parallels throughout the season, visually, thematically, you know, the family themes and the spiritual theme. I really felt like, even though there were some studio problems with the animators and that kind of stuff, I really did feel like there was some heart and soul from the writers in certain points of the season. Especially for me, I think A New Spiritual Age, Harmonic Convergence, Darkness Falls, Beginnings Part 1 and Part 2, and the finale, Light in the Dark. I really felt like they were pouring their heart and soul, even if that meant breaking the viewer's heart. And I'm talking about Killing of the Past Lives. It was really trying to go to those choices. It makes it memorable for me. It's setting it apart from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, it's saying, this is Legend of Korra, this is not Avatar. I really just appreciate that choice, to be honest. I respect it. And honestly, one of my favorite things is that from the beginning of the season, the big premise about this, I think, like the big personal premise, is separating Korra from Tenzin. And I think Korra and Tenzin are the heart and soul of this season. Korra and Tenzin go through independent but similar, like, personal and spiritual journeys, trying to find their purpose in this world. What is their role as the Avatar, a father, as a teacher, as a student, as a human being? What does it mean? And I think that's a great way to pose the following question. What does it mean to find your spirituality? What's beautiful about it is that it leaves for interpretation. Through visuals, through dialogue, I think there are some fantastic parallels between one and the other, between Korra and Tenzin. I think the legacy that is such a big weight in their shoulders, they really have to do is to embrace themselves as Korra and Tenzin themselves. And I think that is such a beautiful commentary on us as people, having like this stress of living up to certain expectations that really might mean that it's like drifting away from who you really are. And I think that's just beautiful. And other things that I really loved is the music. The music was outstanding throughout this whole season. The visuals were wonderful. I know that there were times in which it was weird, you know, because of the studio problems and the animators, but there were scenes, there were visuals in this season that I just wish I saw it in the big screen. I wish I was like in the movies watching season 2 of Legend of Korra, to be honest. In episode 13, for example, I was so swept away. It was amazing. And I do think that's what makes season 2 Korra work for me. Tenzin and Korra, they have their big payoff in episodes 13 and 14 that makes it so powerful for me and so memorable and so resonant for me. It just gives me a lot to think about. A lot. I think watching, I insist, watching this season through the lens of Korra and Tenzin and their personal journeys, I think it makes it more rewarding. It really made it for me, even more in a rewatch. I loved it. I loved it. Honestly, even though this might sound weird, even though I do think book 1 of Korra is stronger than book 2 of Korra, I think it's more consistent, there's better momentum, it's a tighter story with, I think, a better villain, a better conflict. It's much more focused and has a better sense of direction. I think season 2, I think I enjoy it more, weirdly enough. The ambition of the story and the character development of 2 very important characters like Korra and Tenzin, which are my favorite in this whole season. The themes, how emotionally significant, how thoughtful they are, and the visuals, it all makes it so resonant for me personally. I think season 2 means a little bit more to me than season 1. Please let me know what your thoughts and, you know, feelings are about this season, this whole finale, because I'm really curious. I know this is viewed as the weakest season of Legend of Korra and probably the Avatar universe. For me, this season, it just had a lot of things to say, and the way it said it, it was so bold, it was so ambitious, and it was so unapologetically honest about it that I loved it. I'm just really excited for season 3 and 4, honestly. The way it ended things, it wrapped up things, I was amazed by it. I was so blown away, and I can't wait for more. Thank you so much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you want more content like this, please give it a like, and you may want to subscribe if you haven't yet. That was weird. And we'll see each other in the next one. See ya!